Can the president prosecute the press? What protections do journalists actually have in America? Hi, everybody. I'm Jenna. This is Smarter News, and we're all about quick, concise, nonpartisan information. And we love a free press, which is why when the president said this on Monday, we sat up and paid attention. Take a listen.
But these two extraordinary rescues, because it was two, and as you probably know, we didn't talk about the first one for an hour, and then somebody leaked something, which we'll hopefully find that leaker. We're looking very hard to find that leaker, and talked about there's somebody missing. They basically said that we have one and there's somebody missing. Well, they didn't know there was somebody missing until this leaker gave the information. So whoever it was, we think we'll be able to find it out, because we're going to go to the media company that released it, and we're going to say, national security, give it up or go to jail. And we know who, and you know who we're talking about.
Wait a minute, just for a moment here, let me catch you up. So the president's talking for the very first time in a press conference at the White House. He's giving details about an operation that led to the rescue of 2 airmen shot down over the skies of Iran, found behind enemy lines. And he's giving, again, the detail that we have not heard up until this point. He mentions that the press is the reason why the world knew about a second person. This is the weapons service officer that was also missing. And he really is pointing at the press saying, without you guys reporting this, without this leaker, no one would know about this. Let's listen a little bit more.
He did that. All of a sudden, the entire country of Iran knew that there was a pilot that was somewhere on their land that was fighting for his life. And it also made it much more difficult for the pilots and for the people going in to search for him. All of a sudden, they know that there's somebody out there. They see all these planes coming in. It became a much more difficult operation because a leaker leaked that we have one, we've rescued one, but there's another one out there that we're trying to get. So actually, the country, Iran, put out a major notice, you all saw it, offering a very big award for anybody that captures the pilot. So in addition to a hostile, very talented, very good, very evil military, we had millions of people trying to get an award. So when you add that to it, but we have to find that leaker, because that's a sick person. Probably didn't realize the extent of how bad it was. I can't imagine that the person did, but we're going to find out. It's national security, and the person that did the story will go to jail if he doesn't say, and that doesn't last long, and I think everybody would understand it. They put this mission at great risk. They put that man at great risk, and they put the hundreds of people that went in looking for him, because everyone now knows that we're going in.
So the president goes a couple different places there. Let me just go back to one thing he said, which he made a reference that we know who this is. We know what media platform this is, or who's behind publishing this leaked information. And at least at this time, about 48 hours after that press conference, we still don't know specifically which news organization exactly, because there were many, many news organizations and many journalists that were reporting about a second person missing. And there is something to note here that is why this press conference was really important, and why what the president is saying here is unique in this particular way. Oftentimes during breaking news events, we do have on the record statements from U.S. officials, even to say they're not going to say anything. But during this breaking news event, where we had this fighter jet shot down and we had 2 airmen missing, we had complete and total silence from the White House, from on the record statements. We didn't really hear from anybody until the president announced the rescue of that second airman. So there was a time where the media did not have on the record comments from officials, but there was reporting coming from officials off the record on background, leaking to the press some details of what was happening behind the scenes. So that does make this little chapter in this much wider news environment, very different. Now, there's something else about what the president said that can be a little confusing. Is he mad at the publication, the media platform, or is he mad at the leaker? And who does he have grounds to go after here? It sounds like he's not really happy with a whole bunch of people, not only the person who leaked, the journalist that reported it, the media platform behind it. But again, we don't know any specifics on any of this. There is legal precedent, though, for a part of this conversation when we talk about, well, what protections do journalists actually have? What does a free press really mean? We talk about a free press being guaranteed by the US Constitution, and it sounds like it means sort of like a free-for-all, sort of like free speech. But as you likely know, even free speech has limitations, and a free press has limitations as well. There's not legal precedent, to my knowledge, where a government has gone after a media organization for publishing something accurate, even if it is an off-the-record comment or someone that is unnamed as a source. In fact, there's not legal precedent, to my knowledge, of the U.S. government going after a media organization for printing something inaccurate, even though those sources could be unnamed. It's very hard for the government to weigh in, and again, no legal precedent that I know of, on editorial choices that are made by media organizations. That could change in the future. The president has even talked about that, about how there's no consequences if you get something wrong. But to this point, we don't have that. So really what the president could do in this situation, and what the US government can do, and where there is legal precedent, is to go after the leaker. And one of the ways to get to anyone that leaks information is through the journalist that they leak to. Now, there are a couple caveats to this, and I just want to mention this very briefly. When we're talking about protections for journalists, it really depends on the story, and it really depends on who's doing the investigation. Most states, with the exception of Wyoming, have some sort of shield law for the press, protections for the press, where the press does have some protection against complying with the government for an investigation based on protecting free speech and the ability of a press to operate independently in America. It doesn't mean that a court would not comply someone on a state or local level to participate in an investigation or give up their sources or talk more specifically about their reporting. It just means that it's a little bit harder to do. And it is rare. In fact, I was thinking about this. I don't know many of my colleagues have ever confronted this. Typically, the press, even if it's not official, is protected somewhat from giving up the information that they learn through their reporting as a matter of a public service that they're providing. But there's no shield law on a federal level. So the federal government is investigating something, and my reporting is deemed part of that investigation. I can be subpoenaed, and I could be compelled by the court to participate in the investigation, which could mean giving up my sources. And if I decided not to do that, that means that I could be held in contempt. I could be essentially breaking the law. The court is compelling me to participate. I'm still a citizen. Yes, I'm a journalist, but I'm a citizen. And if a court compels you to do something and you say you're not going to do it, you're in violation and you can be thrown in prison, which is actually what happened in the past. We do have some legal precedent for that. So let me talk to you about one example in recent history where we've seen this actually take place. And I'm going to use broad strokes here. I'm going to take you back to the Iraq War and the Bush administration and the assertion by the Bush administration that there's weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Well, there was an individual that was connected to the government that was tasked with investigating this. He does some investigation, and eventually he ends up writing an opinion piece for the New York Times about why he disagrees with the Bush administration and says what they're saying isn't true. In a retaliation, it seems, and it has been reported in the past, someone leaked the identity of that person's wife, who ended up working with the CIA. She was a spy. Someone outed her identity and said that she was the wife of this person and was making the assertion that this person couldn't be trusted because of who he was married to and his connections as well with the US government. So this is kind of a big mess. The US government starts investigating this. Well, who leaked the identity of a spy? That's a really big deal. We just start outing our CIA agents around the world. That can be very dangerous. Someone's life could be at risk. So this investigation is taking place. The New York Times is subpoenaed, and there's a journalist for the New York Times, Judith Miller, who's also subpoenaed to participate in the investigation. And she is asked about her sources. Now, she didn't publish a piece directly on this, but her reporting got her in contact with a lot of different people. And she had some sources that she did not want to give up. And she didn't. She defied the court order and she was held in contempt and she was put in jail where she stayed for 85 days, despite all this different argument to try to get her out, to say that she has the right to protect her sources. She didn't win in that way. She didn't get out of jail for that reason. In fact, she was overruled in those appeals. The reason that she wasn't held for longer is that she says that her source eventually told her that she could share their identity. And with their permission, she then participated in the government investigation, which, by the way, didn't actually ever lead to the arrest of a leaker. There was an arrest and a prosecution of somebody else related to this. But you could just see how even under the umbrella of an investigation, journalists could be forced to make a decision about how they want to practice their craft. And yes, they could make the decision to not give up their sources. They could also be compelled by the court to participate and face the consequences because of that. Because yes, I do have wear the symbolic badge of a free press and have free speech, but I'm still a citizen of the United States, and we still have a justice system that I need to comply with. So let me just give you an example, another example that's unrelated to this news, just to talk about how this tension differs on a state or a local level in the federal government. There was a case just recently of what's been described as a terrorist attack in downtown Austin. There's a lot of different people involved in investigating this. This is very close by to me. Let's say I'm doing some reporting on this event and I find out some damaging things about the investigation through my sources. I'm not going to tell anyone about my sources, but I am reporting on it and people don't like it. In fact, nobody likes it. Local, state government doesn't like it. The federal government doesn't like it. They want to know who's leaking this information because the person that is leaking information can be violating law. And that's what the government wants to crack down on. You can't violate the law. They want to enforce the law. And so in order to get to that person, they want to go through me. It is true that in these different scenarios, I could be compelled to participate in the investigation, but it would be much harder to do that on a local or state level. It would be much easier for the federal government to do that to me, to where the federal government through grand jury, through a subpoena, I've been asked to participate. And if I say, no, I'm not giving up my sources, then I could be held in contempt and thrown into prison. So that's interesting to note that, yes, journalism allows us to access areas that the public doesn't normally get to access. We can sometimes go places that others cannot go. We can get in connection to people of power and to get access to information that maybe a quote unquote average citizen would not, because we have that badge. Hey, we're the free press and we're going to go in and we're allowed to ask questions. But it doesn't protect us indefinitely from not participating in the justice system. And so in this particular scenario, if the federal government decides to try to find out who this leaker is, the federal government can actually, and very much so, subpoena a media platform, a media organization, subpoena a host of journalists, editors, graphic artists, the person that reported, to try to figure out once and for all who is in the middle of this investigation, who actually leaked this. Now, I just want to add an asterisk to this story. We still don't know exactly who the president is talking about. We don't know who's behind this leaked information. There was some reporting that it could have been an Israeli citizen that was doing this reporting independently, in which case this would get very complicated because that's not an American citizen. And I don't even want to walk down that path of extradition and what that would actually look like. It would be a much different scenario than an American citizen working for an American media platform. So we'll have to wait and see. The broader question here is also not just about legality, about whether or not it was legal for a journalist to publish this information. You hear the president talk about revealing national secrets. This is a really important distinction. In general, from what we've seen in the past, if the government wants to target a leaker, it can sometimes look like they're targeting the journalist. But the journalist themselves is not being prosecuted for publishing leaked information, even national secrets. It's the person that revealed it. It can feel that way, but we haven't really seen that, because there is free speech, there's the public interest, and that's a much broader argument. So you have to be careful about how things appear. There is a question about ethics, and that often our stories can be reduced down into, well, is something legal or illegal? We can tackle that. But then there's a question about whether or not something's ethical. And that's a really interesting question for all media organizations for this story, because there is that broader question about whether or not the information they were sharing in this vacuum where the government wasn't talking was really for public interest, or was actually putting America and our fellow citizens at risk. Did media platforms trade off for clicks and for being relevant and for journalism? Let's say for even the best intentions. Maybe it wasn't just clicks. Maybe it was like, we really want to get this story out there. We think it's so important for the American people to know. Did they trade security for that? It's an interesting question. At Smarter News, at a point in this weekend, I very much was talking to our audience through social media saying, listen, we don't have a lot of information. We have almost nothing on the record. We have to be very, very aware of that. But there were some maps that were being shown. And I thought it was important to show what area of Iran we were looking at, because we've talked so much about the Strait of Hormuz. We've talked a lot about Tehran, but this was in an area we haven't talked a lot about. And it was a large area. So I shared a map. That's a question, though. Should I have shared that map? Should I have even given that information out? Because it was a sign about where America was focused. Yes, the CIA said they had a variety of different deception campaigns, but was that the right thing to do at that time? Or should we have waited a couple hours to see, is anyone rescued? Is everyone safe? And do we get anything more on the record? Should we have operated with more discipline? There's the legal question about leaking information. And then there's just an editorial ethical question about what's the right thing to do in this situation. On that, I have just an interesting personal story to share with you that could give us some context about how things were done in the past. Remember, we're in a period where we have not declared war officially against Iran. And in fact, the US government, the US Congress has not declared war since World War II. Back in World War II, though, there was a journalist by the name of Paul K. Lee. He's my grandfather, working for the Associated Press. A young man wanted to go overseas, and he was embedded with US forces. And unfortunately, I didn't get all his stories before he passed away. I was very young when he passed away. But I do have some of his artifacts from his time overseas. Remember, this is a totally different time. There's no social media. There's no technology. We're not moving so fast where we're getting these images that are almost real time on conflict. It's so different now. There was quickly moving information, though, and there were certainly large strategic movements of the U.S. military. So how did journalists navigate this? Like, how do you make that call? Well, I actually have a copy of his handbook from the Associated Press that talks about censorship. So remember, he's embedded with U.S. forces. He's going to be reporting on what's happening there. Well, here are some of the rules that he had to follow. And I want you to think about how this would play out in modern times. Because I think about these 4 bullet points a lot, even in our reporting at Smarter News, even though it's under the title censorship, because journalists at certain points were required to submit their reporting to make sure that they weren't giving up secret classified information, specifically locations, because that was the name of the game, because we didn't have the technology that we do now. So here's what I'm just going to read for you. Censorship of articles for publication. In general, articles may be released for publication to the public provided 1, they are accurate in statement and implication. 2, they do not supply military information to the enemy. 3, they will not injure the morale of our forces, the people at home, or our allies. Think about that one. They will not injure the morale of our forces, the people at home, or our allies. 4, they will not embarrass the United States as allies or neutral countries. And so it goes on that intelligence officers are charged with having some oversight here for some of this work. And I'd be curious to find out, was it everything? How did this actually work in real time? What did this actually look like? I've looked at some of my grandfather's reporting, and it's very vivid. You feel like you're there. But as far as precise location, you definitely don't have coordinates for that. So I want you to think about how this story over the weekend would be different if the U.S. press followed this. Again, this is censorship. So this is something that's very uncomfortable to talk about, right? We don't want to think about censorship. We didn't like it on social media during the pandemic. We don't like other people censoring our work. This is the US government, though, for Associated Press journalists, wanting an accurate statement and implication, not supplying information to the enemy, not embarrassing the United States or damaging the morale of our forces. How would that change some of the reporting that you're currently seeing now? And do we need, maybe it's not a censorship umbrella, but do we need to really think about, especially during these times where we have so much availability to report to you in a myriad of different ways, do we have to think about what are our pillars of a free press? What does that mean in America? We say it out loud. We think we know what it means. But in America today, what are some parameters that we should operate within? Do they exist? Or is it a free-for-all, different platforms, different ideas, and not necessarily shared ethics or editorial choices? We already have that, but is it working? And is it benefiting the country? I'm very curious your thoughts on that. I hope you find this a little bit helpful. So we'll see. We're going to find out, what does the president do here? What does the Justice Department do? What would an investigation show about who leaked this information about a second airman being missing, locations, details, and what choices do the journalists make in those situations? Do they comply with the government? Do they protect their sources? And do we have a broader conversation about free press, free speech, and what it means for America in 2026? I look forward to your thoughts. Thanks for your support of quick, concise, nonpartisan news, free and independent press. We appreciate it, and we'll continue to try to work to deliver for you a report without political agenda, with curiosity prioritized over commentary. Thank you. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon at smartnews.com. Bye, guys.